Okay. Well, good afternoon. Thanks for coming out. It's always an exciting day because it's game week or opening day, so it's right around the corner. But very excited about this club. Obviously, we got a lot of offense returning. The core of our lineup with Ogden and Cuvée and Max Galvin and Derek Williams coming back, and some new additions in Sosa and Cheyenne and West and development of some of the young guys from last year, Torres and Peralta, amongst others. But exciting to say the least, right? Putting a lineup together for this season. And pitching-wise, getting a freshman All-American, Team USA guy, Jay Siskar, kind of anchoring the rotation on Friday nights. So kind of give a little clue there as to our rotation. But he'll be our Friday night guy, and then we got some guys coming back as well as Tate. Really a rebuilt bullpen that we can get into, but it's an exciting time. It's kind of to build off of last year's season and the run we went on at the end there with in the Super Regionals, and really being one run away from getting to Omaha was great. But now it's about taking that next step and winning that Super Regional again to where we want to be. So to be a fun season. Looking forward to the fans coming back out and the excitement around this program being back to where it's supposed to be. So I'll open up for any questions you guys might have.
Yeah, speaking of the way last season ended, getting so close to Omaha, but obviously so much progress towards the end of the year. Just how much do you think your team's going to be able to build on that going into this season?
Well, that's the importance of the core offensive group that's back. And they were a big part of that. When they got going, we got going. So, building off of that, those guys, and then kind of passing the baton or teaching the other guys what it takes to win and things like that, it's a big boost for us. So it's exciting to take that next jump.
Hey, what do you see as the strength of the team, and then what is maybe like a question mark area where you're not quite sure heading into Friday?
Offense is definitely the strength. I think we've improved defensively as well. The big question mark, obviously, is the pitching, and really more because of the amount of innings that we lost. We lost the entire bullpen, and 2 out of our 4 starters that we lost from last season. So I think it's just the unknown. I won't say call it a weakness, but just the unknown of it is our biggest concern right now.
Well, with that unknown, last year you guys made kind of I think it was a 9-game jump in the win column. Is there a pillar of your culture that you've seen take foothold in here that where you feel okay with when there's years of turnover that they're going to perform or adhere to those pillars?
I don't think the amount of wins in the regular season is something that we kind of judge ourselves by here. It's putting another banner on the wall and getting to Omaha, getting to the World Series. So to me, it's we got hot at the right time last year and won some big games, and then things came together at the right time. So we could win 45 games. We're not in Omaha. It's not a great season here. So our goal is still the same, is being one of those final 8 in the College World Series.
You guys came into last year with basically a completely overdone roster, only a few guys coming back from here before. The fact that you have so many key guys coming back this year, how much did that help with the lead up to the season, knowing that you had a lot of your big guns still here, knew what to expect, and were able to help with?
Well, it allows us to build on what we've done, right, and continue to develop and improve those guys instead of starting over like we did last year. So, some of those things that you saw work last year, we're going to be better at this year because those guys are back and continue to work with, in the hitting side with Chris and just continue to develop.
With AJ, just what steps do you see him making maybe since the end of his freshman season?
Your location, command of pitches. It's funny. Last year, he had a lot of outs, had a lot of success, not with quality pitches, but he has so much movement and so much deception in his repertoire that he got away with some bad pitches. So now he's starting to locate better, and it's showing. He completely dominated a very good lineup that just went over. I think his ERA was under a 1 during the spring inter-squad. So just watching him command the strike zone better and make better quality pitches, it's exciting to see.
Can you talk about some of maybe just a few of the portal/true freshman guys that you think can really help elevate this team this year?
Well, Alex Sosa behind the plate is one. It brings a big bat, a left-handed bat. It's a nice combination to have behind Cuvée in the middle of the lineup. Cheyenne, he's going to be a starting shortstop, which means Ogden's going to move to second base. He's a guy that, I think he had 16 home runs last year, hit 330, still 20-some bases, and he might be hitting 7th or 8th in this lineup, so it's a deep lineup. Then you bring in Brylan West at first base that, we were sick of him midweeks against FIU last year, so hopefully he could do the same for us here. And, a guy like Copeland, a junior college transfer. And then our freshman class is very, very talented. I think on a normal season, you might have 3 of those guys that are capable of starting. But just with the return of so many guys, it might be hard for them to get on the field. But it's not due to lack of talent. So it's a matter of, being patient and waiting their turn, and our future is very bright.
What have you seen from Dylan Dominguez? I remember him mashing up at Heritage. You see him. I see he's listed at both outfield and pitcher. Do you expect him coming out of the bullpen and play? What do you expect from him this year?
Right now, he's going two ways for us, and more the lack of pitching depth. Because of Nick Robert and Frank Menendez being injured and not being available till sometime in March. He's kind of filling that role right now. But as soon as we got a full, we're at full strength pitching wise. He'll be relegated just to hitting, and he's a guy. He's a 5-tool talent. I mean, he could play center field here one day and hit for power and speed and great arm, obviously. And so he's one of those freshmen that's very talented. It's just finding at bats and innings might be difficult.
We know a special game with Couvé is where you've seen him grow the most over the last 2 years, and what may be the next step for him going into year 3?
Patience at the plate, and be more selective and approach wise, and understanding what pitch he can and can't hit. Last year, everyone said he got off to a slow start, but he never dropped below 330. He wasn't hitting for power, but that's because every at bat seemed to be a 0-2 or 1-2 count, swinging at bad pitches early. So as the season went on, he got more selective. That's when the power numbers started coming up, and again, that's part of building from last year. He's continuing to grow on that side of the the ball, and he's getting more selective and patient and understanding what he can and can't do. All the questions are from this side.
Awesome, thank you.
Good?
Jay.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it.
Oh, we got one.
I have a quick question. I just got here, so I don't know if anyone asked this, but what are you expecting from AJ Siscar and Tate Rice, and what kind of growth have they had in the postseason?
Well, AJ is going to be our Friday night starter, which, our ace, I guess. And he's just pitchability-wise and location-wise and command of his pitches, he's gotten a lot better and developed there on that side of the ball. So, as well as Tate. Tate's going to be our Sunday starter. So our rotation is going to be AJ Siscar on Friday, Laz Gutierrez on Saturday, and Tate Rice on Sunday. Laz Gutierrez is a kid that, as a freshman, was very talented, inconsistent, and has made really huge jumps for us, and has earned that Saturday spot.
JD, you talked about needing last year. You only needed one more win to get into the College World Series. What's going to be the biggest difference to get that one more win?
It wasn't something we did wrong last year, right? That third game was a perfect baseball game. We just went one run short. I think it was good pitching on both sides, good defense on both sides. Both teams hit balls hard, made plays, and we just went one run short. So it's tough to say. Winning the last series, I guess this is the only difference. But if this team plays up to its capabilities, we should go a long way this year.
Good again.
Coach, last year was a team that was so connected and so together, especially towards the end of the year. How do you handle that for another year as a head coach?
We do the same thing, right? Every year, it's not anything we did different. It's just a good group of guys. And again, having that core back and understanding how important that was, as much as you preach it as a coaching staff, the players got to believe in it. It's got to have the right guys, the right makeup and character. So we feel our core is the right guys coming back that can teach the young guys. But it's not something we did. It wasn't lack of effort. The year, in 2024, it's not like we tried less as a coaching staff to build that. Just different players, different, they're human beings. So hopefully they're getting it, and we put the time in, they put the time in, and we're in a good place right now.
Anything else? You lose a couple of your veteran leaders from last year, guys like Brian Walters, Bill Gonzalez, Will Smith. Who have you kind of seen step up in that leadership role from this year's roster?
Well, we already mentioned the offensive guys in Couvé and Ogden and Galvin and Williams. On the pitching side, Nick Robert, people forgot about him, but he was our best reliever as a freshman. Last year, he started the year as our Friday night guy, and he had the injury where he was out all year. So he's a guy that the pitchers really look up to. Frank Menendez coming in from Florida. It's a guy that has Omaha experience over there as a freshman. Also coming back from injury. So I think it's important to talk about how we're going to be a different team come March. Just getting those two guys back. I think Nick Robert would be back Creighton weekend, and then Frank is expected back for Clemson. So adding those two guys to any pitching staff, it really improves us. We're going to be a different team come that time of the season.
What's up, guys?
How's it going?
All right.
So JD told us, AJ's going to be starting Friday night. Obviously, he had a great freshman year. How have you seen him grow since the end of last season?
I think, in today's game, everybody's talking about development and what are you going to do to develop players and how do players develop. I mean, it's it's always a common theme. Like, that's the perfect example of a young man that from day one started getting better. He continues to get better. We've worked on adding to his repertoire. But, I mean, today I was looking at the stats, throws the highest numbers of strikes. He's like at 74%, which is unheard of. Where our aim is 64%, he's at 74%. He works his tail off. He attacks the zone. His slider and his changeup, which are mainstays in his repertoire, continue to get better, and he's using them in different counts in different situations. So, I expect from AJ to see a lot of what we've seen and what we saw last year as a freshman. But I think what you'll see is it's going to be even more refined, right, and even more consistent.
And that strike percentage, was that in the fall? Was that in bullpens? Both?
Both in the fall and the spring.
And then the rest of the rotation, Laz growing Contagious, the strides you saw from them, and what you think of your weekend rotation as a whole?
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited. These are homegrown guys. These are guys that we recruited from high school and have developed within our program, and that's how. I think in a perfect world, that's how you want to see it, right? Where you recruit young bucks and you bring them in and they're eager to learn and grow and get better. And what you see of those three guys is that they've gotten better at a different rate and differently, but all three of them have gotten better and they've developed.
Coach, J.D. mentioned you have to rebuild the entire bullpen. What's that process been like in figuring out which guys are actually better in that role than maybe starting, and how have you gone about doing that?
Yeah, I think that's always a challenge, right? Because it's very difficult to replicate game situation, even though we try to do it, but it's just almost impossible, right? And, throwing in the seventh inning of a game is different than throwing in the ninth inning. Right. And heck, even at the major league level, it's different. And you see how guys respond differently. But it's been a challenge. It will always be a challenge. But we got someone like Bilka that threw in significant innings at the University of Richmond and this summer out of the bullpen. And he's someone that feels not only comfortable throwing in those high leverage innings, but he bounces back easily. Or I shouldn't say easily, but he bounces back how you would want to see someone bounce back when they throw in more than one game a week. Packy Bradley Cooney is a guy that we're excited about. Did not pitch that much last year at Alabama, but the year before at Campbell, he pitched in high leverage innings, right? He's an arm strength guy with a true put away slider. And our aim this entire time since he's been here is, how do we get these great qualities from him on a consistent basis? Knowing that he has thrown in the past in higher leverage innings. Jake Dorn is another guy for us that came in last year and, started throwing more as the season progressed. And, he threw in incredibly valuable innings for us last year, especially in the playoffs when we needed someone to extend in a game and really keep the bullpen from going in too deep last year in certain situations where we were trying to save the bullpen, and he was incredible for us. He was incredible in the summer. He pitched extremely well in the fall and the spring thus far for us.
What do you think the team learned just from that postseason run last year?
I mean, to Chris's point, we talk about focusing on the little things. We talk about valuing the right things because when they come into play, they're extremely valuable and important. But it's like your dad telling you, don't do this. And as soon as you fall off the bike or you fail, all of a sudden you start valuing it. Or the neighbor down the street tells you to focus on that. And it's like your dad never told you. Similar, right? Where, we talk about how important the little things are, but until you're faced with them and obviously you go into postseason play and all the small things matter. And so I thought that was incredibly valuable for our guys, right? I think the other thing as well is baseball is baseball. And they realize that my game does not have to change because maybe the value of the game is perceived to be different, right? Like, as long as I'm able to continue to play my game, regardless of the game situation, regardless of where this game is being played at, in what portion of the season is played at, that's when I'm the best version of myself. And I think our guys, this returning group, both from a hitting standpoint, from a pitching standpoint, understood why we need to value these things. And now it's inherent. Instead of coaches trying to sell it, now they understand it, and they teach the younger guys how important they are.
Anything else for Coach Laz? When you look at some of the freshman arms this year, I want to highlight specifically LJ Drummond. How do you see them kind of factoring into the bullpen this year?
It's funny as you use LJ as an example because he's left-handed, right? But Jack Dursel as well, Sebastian, Santo Olson as well, all lefties, right? And, I told them how incredibly important it is for lefties to be able to come in and throw strikes right out the bat because their value, at least from the onset, is to be able to get lefties out because it's extremely important. So I think what you see in the key denominator in those three guys that I just mentioned, extremely athletic, right? They're able to throw strikes with their fastball, and they have one secondary pitch that is a consistent swing and miss threat. And I think that's a common theme amongst the three of those freshmen.
Coach, obviously we've seen how Daniel Cuvée has just gotten, has played so well basically since he got on campus. Just what steps do you see him taking this offseason? How is he improving and working on his game?
You just keep progressing, right? Like, I always tell him just clean up the things you need to clean up, but we're not making any major changes with him. He's hit since he's been on campus, like you said. And so, every year you just try to get a little smarter, a little better in what you're doing and how to work. And basically that's how we go about his business.
You're returning a lot of your big guys, obviously Cuvée, Ogden, Galvin, Williams, etc. Just how much does it help a hitting coach when you already have an idea of the tendencies of your main guys and in terms of just preparation throughout fall and spring?
Absolutely. And those guys, they start to learn the lingo, what is Mingo saying, what is, and then not only that, it helps the other guys too. So absolutely. When you have guys returning that understand, what the offense should look like and what we need to be, it just helps everybody else be better, so.
Kind of in the opposite side of things, like with so many transfers, obviously, that's just the way college sports is right now with the transfer portal. How important is that time in the offseason, in the fall, getting to learn, your new players' tendencies, learning like what they do well, what they don't do well, what they need to work on? Just what's that process like?
Yeah. I think everybody, when they go to a new place, they, sometimes they want to change right away, because they think, but look, they've had success. Like I told them, they've had success where they've been, right? So again, it takes a little bit of time for me to get to know them. And I always tell them, look, it's not fair for me to day one try and change you. Let me get some games in and see how you do, and if we need to change something or if we don't. And so I'm always watching video of them before they arrive on campus just to see if anything sticks out. But for the most part, our guys are good. That's why they're here, and that's why we got them in the portal. So.
Who are some of the new guys that pop out to you?
Yeah, Alex Sosa, obviously, but Brylan West down the road, Van Shan, all those guys have done really well, and they're very low maintenance guys, which is nice for me, and so they fit in really well with the guys.
Coach, your group seems to have a good mix of power and contacts. What do you like about the overall balance?
It was super balanced, like you said. Definitely, from the power standpoint, we're bigger. We're definitely bigger, and it's noticeable, in the lineup. And so, but you got experience, which really helps. And so, but you mix in some speed with those, the guys at the top and some guys at the back. And so, like you said, I think it's super balanced lineup, and I think that helps when you're trying to navigate the season, and definitely helps in the postseason. But for sure, when you're navigating through the season, you want to as balanced lineup as you can. Look, Torres is done great. He's made some big strides from last year. So, he carried on from what he was in the playoffs, and that was my message to him. And just, hey, how can you continue what you did in the playoffs and just continue through the summer and through the fall and now through the spring? And so he's done great. Peralta done great as well. Just getting bigger, stronger. Peralta's noticeably bigger, and that was a challenge for him. And both those guys have done well and are going to be pieces to contribute for us. So.
Speaking of, the postseason last year, just what do you think the team learned from being in those high-pressure situations and going through that run?
Yeah, I think everybody says, hey, the little things matter, but until you're in those situations, you don't really know what that means. And so I think now, again, when you run practice or things that I say, now they matter more because we've already been through them. So I think that's the most important part.
Coach, you mentioned about getting bigger.
Yeah.
Who kind of the beast in the weight room for you?
Yeah.
Who's somebody that's impressive?
Listen, I mean, I'm in there a lot, so I see a lot of these guys, but they're all pushing weight, man. They're all pushing weight, and it's hard to pinpoint one guy, but they're all big, even from the pitching staff, man. They're all big, and they just noticeably bigger. They like to be in the weight room, and that's a testament to Nick Soto and and the work that he does. But definitely like to push some weight in there. So I can't pinpoint one guy, but they're all bigger for sure.
Anything else? Once, twice.
Okay.
When you're recruiting new players, what is one factor that you evaluate beyond the stats?
Yeah. Look, you got to be a good teammate, and I think that gets overlooked a little bit these days, just because in the situation, the state that we're in as far as college baseball. But you got to fit into what we do as a program and what we've been, and so I think that's a big part because at that point everybody's kind of talented. So how do you look past the talent and try to see their work ethic and how they go about their business and how they are in the locker room? I think that's huge. So hopefully we do a good job of that.
I think you mentioned Van Shane or
Mm-hmm.
Shane.
Yeah, Shane.
Just, what have you seen from him? What does he bring to the line?
Man, when work starts, like he's working. Like he's super serious guy in that aspect, and again, great teammate. He pushes guys, so that's also helps. But super focused. I never had to tell him, hey, let's go, focus up. Like he's always focused when we start work, and I think that's great for him. I think he's super motivated this year.
Coach, which freshmen have kind of stood out on the offensive side of the ball? Maybe a little bit more than some others.
Yeah. For me, Alonso Alvarez, switch hitting catcher. That guy's, real mature approach at the plate. I think both, in the fall and the spring, he's kind of led a lot of good categories that you don't see a lot when freshmen, step on campus, and he's kind of surpassed those things. And so he just looks like a dude, and I think hopefully we expect big things from him, but he's been great for us, and I'm real excited to see what he brings.